B, very interesting. Oh, Steve. Okay, so 70B. No, sorry. Yeah. The Mishna, yeah. Boleshes. So Boleshes is a soldier. I don't know if it's a general or a regular soldier. Troop. A troop. Okay. Okay, yeah. A troop. That's one person. That's many people. So you're a trooper. That's right. So Boleshes the troop that entered into a city. So now they walk in and they're not so nice. So they go into your house and they touch your wine and then they leave it all a mess. That's it. So what's the law? So b'shas shalom, when there's peace, believe it or not, it happened at one point. There's peace. It's not a time of war. So now, classic rule: the open barrels, chavios, psuchos, asuros, those are going to be usher. Presumably they touch them. Stumos and mutaros, the closed ones are going to be permitted because they're closed. That's all at a time of peace. However, b'shas milchama, when there's war going on, they're both permitted. Elu ve'elu are mutaros, because lefi she'ein penai linasech. There's no time to pour them for their idols. It's too busy. It's wartime. So therefore, they're going to be permitted. Yeah. Now, V'reminhi, we're going to have a problem with this. Why? Ir shekafshuhu. The presumption is right now that there is no time during war to pour wine for your idols. Well, is that true that there's no time during war to do certain things? We find in another context that Ir shekafshu karkum. So now we have a city that was sieged by the enemy. So now, kol kahana shebesok psul is terrible. All the wives of the kohanim are going to be forbidden to their husbands because presumably they went and they violated every woman in the city. And a woman who's married to a Kohen who was violated, she can't stay with the Kohen. So what do you see? They sound like they have plenty of time. They have time. If they have time to violate the women, but then they have for other purposes.
That's why, right. You got the wine. Let's go for the women.
Right. To write your own Gemara, Steve. No. So
wine, women, and so on.
Yeah. So now, Tosa says, hold on. Maybe this happened after the war was over, and that's why. So you don't have proof that during. It sounds like they're talking about all context, not only after war, even during war. So since it's during war, they do have time. So Amar of Mari, like Steve said, Lenasech ein penai, livel yesh penai. They have relations. They got time to pour the wine. They don't get time. Yeah, very good, Steve. So, yeah, I know. That's what I think. Yeah. So you're already in tune. 8th time around Daf Yomi is in tune. So okay. So now back to like doing sales with the idol worshippers and their wine. Ha'omnin shel Yisrael. So you have a Jewish worker. So he did a good job working. And what happened? Sheshalach lahem obed kochavim chavishel yain nesech v'skaran. The way this employer wants to pay him is with a nice big bottle with a cross on it, a big bottle of idols as his Pesach gift. So he gives him a bottle as a present. Bischaran. So now, Chavashayim Netzach Bischaran mutter. That is permitted. Lomar lo tein lanu as damah. One second. Ha'omnin she'yishol shalach lahem over k'chavim chavashayim Netzach Bischaran mutter lomar lo tein lanu as damah. Sorry. You're allowed to tell him, you know what? Instead of that wine you're about to give me, just give me the cash. That's not considered like you're exchanging the wine for the cash, and then you're benefiting from the sale of idolatrous wine. If you already acquired it, Mishenichnas le'shusan, once you've acquired the wine, so then you cannot exchange anymore, because then you're benefiting from the sale of idolatrous wine. My first night on the trip was in Teaneck, New Jersey. And that night, between Min and Chamar, the rabbi spoke. And we're talking about Yain Nesek. But the other part that's relevant nowadays is Stam Yainam, regular wine. which also has certain prohibitions to it. So the question came up: you buy the wine from the store, you thought it was whatever Bartanura, you realize it was the non-kosher brand. So can you return it now and get your money back? Is that called benefiting from a very practical? Yeah, so dependent on two opinions, but it has to do with things like this. So always two opinions, I know. So Amar Yehuda Amar Rav. So only two opinions. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav that we tell you about. Yeah. So Amar Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav says, Mutter la'adam lo omer lo b'kochavim. It is permissible for a person to tell the idol worshiper, "Say the hafez alai menasam, go and pay for my taxes. You go pay for my taxes, and I'll pay you back." So Rashi speaks out that he explains that it sounds like there was a certain wine tax that he had to pay the king, the wine tax. So the Jew could tell the idol worshiper, "Listen, you paid for me. So now hold on. The idol worshiper is paying the king with idolatrous wine. So that's like also benefiting from idolatrous wine." But he said the Jew can tell him that you pay for me and I'll pay you back. So he's giving whatever $100 and he's paying with idolatrous wine. That's permitted. That's permitted. And Rashi explains why. Because the problem would be is that the idolater is being your shaliach, your messenger. However, in this case, the idolater sounds like he could pay off the king with money too. Doesn't have to pay him with the wine. So since the idolater has a choice, can I pay you with the wine or can I pay you with the money? So that's not considered a like he's my messenger. The same way on Shabbos, if you have a non-Jew working for you or whatever it is, right? He can wash dishes with hot water. But he can't wash with hot water. He's doing hot water on Shabbos, but he could always wash with cold water. So he's choosing to do it, right? He chose to do the work for you on Friday night. He could have done Erev Shabbos, open the tissue boxes. He chose to do it Friday night. He could have done it earlier. So we don't see that as a direct messenger when he has two choices. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So Meisvei, the problem is it says Al Yomer Adam. The difficulty is that you can't tell Al Yomer Adam Lo B'Kochavim Ol Tachti L'Otzer. You can't tell him go in my place. Go in my place to appease the shoter, the officer. So it sounds like you can't say go in my place and pay the taxes for me. And yet we just said you could pay the taxes. Says the Gemara, that's not similar at all because Amr Le Rav Ol Tachtila Otzer Kamers. Here you're saying go in my place. You're asking him to take your place. That's a direct messenger. You're my direct messenger. I'm your shaliach. That you can't do. So really, it's more similar to the next case. Oh, Lieutenant has arrived. Good morning, Lieutenant. So yes. Hello, Damya. Hello, Damya Ella Laha. It's really more similar to the following case. About Omer Lo Malpeni Min Otzer, save me, help me escape from these taxes, so to speak. So there, once again, the guy has a choice. He can either save him from the taxes by giving up wine to the king, or he can write a check, or he can give him money. So once again, he has a choice now. He has a choice to pay with money or to pay with wine. So therefore, we don't view that as a direct messenger. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Says the Jared, we're 71A, right in the middle. New Mishna. Came at a good time. Yeah. Unless you don't know how to pay your taxes with the idolatrous messenger, then you came at the wrong time. So mocher yeinu la'obed kochavim. You sell wine to the idolater. So now we're gonna get very interesting. How does a non-Jew acquire things? It really comes up here. So it sounds like the Jew has a big barrel of wine. Now the idolater doesn't want the whole barrel of wine. He wants whatever, a few cups worth, a few flasks worth of wine. So how are they gonna do this deal? Because at some point we can assume that the non-Jews' cups and flasks might have some yayin nesach in it. And on the other hand, when he takes it and pours it, is that an acquisition? When he does meshicha, is that an acquisition? When he lifts it, is that an acquisition? Are his vessels? Is that all of this? When does he acquire it? It's going to make a big difference. If he acquires it before the wine becomes yayin nesach, then that's fine. Then you can do business with him. But if, let's say, once it's poured into his vessel in some shape or form, either by lifting or by pulling, he's acquired it. If by pulling it first, he acquires it, and then and only then it becomes yayin nesach, that's fine. If it became yain nesach and then he acquired it, then you're doing business for idolatrous wine. So the Gemara is going to say a vague statement, then we're going to get involved in a lot of nitty-gritty. Not too much. So you want to sell wine, a guy selling wine to an idolater. So pasak. So they make a set price. For this barrel of wine, it's going to go for $30, whatever, $100. $100 for this barrel of wine. So now, achilo madad, until it has been measured out, the damav are mutarim. Then the money is permitted. So Rashi said that the Gemara is going to speak this all out. So sounds like if you've already established the price before there's been a measuring, then it's permitted. It sounds like the measuring itself is going to be a problem. Let's see. Madad achalo pasuk. At first you measured, and then you establish the price, then it's going to be prohibited. So it sounds like once you've measured it in some shape or form, the wine now becomes yain nesach, and now you're exchanging money. That is going to be prohibited. So let's see exactly why that's true. So says the Gemara, Amar Meimer. Meimer says. So here we go. Meshicha be'obed kochavim kone. A Meimar is of the opinion that a idolater, really, I think it's really applied to any non-Jew, not necessarily idolater, but can acquire with the form of pulling something. We know that we have Meshicha, we have pulling, we have Hagbah, lifting, we have Mesira, handing over, we have money. Does that work? Does that not work? So Meshicha be'obed kochavim kone. It is a good acquisition. So therefore, even if the idolater did not give the Jew any money, the fact that he pulled this wine, he has acquired it. So we'll see how that fits into the Mishnah, when it's prohibited, when it's permitted. That's the first thing. According to a Meimar, that is a good acquisition. Now, I'll bring you a proof. Teda, the honey parsai, these Persians, we love the Persians. So, Mishadri par deshani lahadadi. So Rashi learns par deshani means gifts. Gifts. Others argue, but gifts. They send gifts to each other. Okay. And v'lo hadribahu, then they can't return them. Sounds like once they've given the gift to somebody else, he's pulled it into his domain, that's it. No backseas. You can't return it. Yeah, no return. So v'lo hadribahu. Oh, so that's my proof from the Persians. We see that's how they do it. And therefore you cannot return them. Yeah. Rav Ashi Amar, no. So on the books, a debate, a Meimar and Rav Ashi. It sounds like the little note is by a Meimar that Meshicha, they do acquire with Meshicha, but Rav Ashi says that they do not acquire. Einokona. Why do the Persians not return the gifts once they pull them into their domain? Because the Ramos Ruchahu Denakitalahu. Interesting, incredibly haughty spirits that they have. Sounds like returning the gift. If you return it, it's like a sense of submission, humility. There's a certain level of haughtiness by not returning the gift. I don't know. Yeah, why is that so haughty?
No. It must be the other way around. I would think yes, but I was going to say I think the other way around.
Sounds like not returning is a level of haughtiness. Yeah. You want to keep your possession, mine. I'll give back to you. Who are you to give back to? It's mine. I don't know. Yeah.
I gave it to you.
I give
it back to her. Yeah, you can't do it.
Right. Oh, meaning from the giver, not from the taker.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Maybe it's the giver. Good. The giver, right? The giver's not going to want it back. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, that would make sense. So now, Amar Rav Ashi, how do I know? From where do I know that there is no pulling something does not acquire it by these idolaters? And on Jews, Amar Rav Ashi, Mina Minala, what's my source? Mida Amar Lahu Rab. Okay, so here we go. The story of Rab, it's gonna take up a lot of our brain space. So Mida Amar Lahu Rab. So Rab had the following statement. Rav Lahanu Saviyusa. Saviyusa are the wine sellers. Rav told them the following. It sounded like they're Jewish wine sellers, and idolaters were coming through and buying wine. He said, Ki Kalisu Chamra. I think Kalisu is to measure, right? I believe. When you measure, good. Thank you. When you measure the wine, first thing you should do, take their money. Shaklu zuzi minayu. First, they want to pay for it, take their whatever it is, $100. Take the money from them. The hadar kailan, then measure. Hadar kailan lahu. Because if you don't, the ilona kitu bahadayu zuzi. Now, if they don't have any money on them, what should you do? Osfinu, lend them the money, give them now $100 as a loan. It should be a loan, meaning basically take their money first. If they have money, good. If not, lend them money and take it from them. Why? So why would you do that? So this is Rav Ashi proving from a story of Rav that Meshicha, pulling, is not a good form of acquisition by the non-Jews. How do we know this? Why do you have to take their money first? The ilo abida suhaki, if you don't do that, so then what's going to happen? If you don't take the money first, rather you measure out the wine into their vessels, and only afterwards you take their wine, ki kahave yain nesech b'rishus saichu kahavi. What's going to happen is when you measure out the wine's going to now become yain nesech. It sounds like, why is it yain nesech all of a sudden? Either their vessels contain drops of idolatrous wine, and your wine is mixed together with it, or maybe they're the ones that are pouring. We have to see all the details, but it sounds like somehow it becomes yain nesech. Either the idolater is the one that's pouring, or the cup itself contains some idolatrous wine, and your wine is mixed in. Now the whole cup becomes yain nesech. It's a little bit vague right now because I think we're going to get into more of the details. But the assumption is that when it's measured out into their flasks, it now becomes yain to their bottles. It becomes yain nesech. And now v'chisha kiltu demei yain nesech kasha kiltu. Now when you take the money, you're in essence taking money for prohibited wine. That is prohibited. So now that's the story. So the vague story is always take their money first, because if not, you're doing business with idolatrous wine. Now, what does it have to do with Meshicha? What does it have to do with pulling is not a good form of acquisition? Where do we see that? So, the Sakadaitach Meshicha ba'obekochavim konim. So Rav Ashi says that I see in a story of Rav that pulling something is not a good form of acquisition. How do I see that? Because if you would have thought that Meshicha, pulling something, is a good form of acquisition, so then, turning the page, then if it would be a good form of acquisition, a very simple solution. As soon as he pulls the wine towards him, so he's acquired it, and so let's say the case is I measured it for him. I, the Jew, measured out from a barrel of wine into a bottle of wine. I measured it for him. Okay. Right now, he's not touching the wine. He's pulling the bottle of wine towards him. So at that moment, he's acquired it. Now, it's not yain nesech. He hasn't touched it yet. It's not yain nesech. So when he gives me the money now, that's fine. It has become yain nesech. If he acquires it with the pulling, so it's his already. So now when the money's exchanged, he's not exchanging money for idolatrous wine. So midamashcha b'kachavim kanya, and yain nesech lo have adinagabe. Yain nesech is not there until he actually touches it. Yeah. Oh, so that's what I see. So now says Gemara, okay, hold on. That's your proof. Well, 1 second. Eid the kakayel, who's doing the measuring? And now we can get to a lot of interesting things. Eid the kakayel, virami lemana di Yisroel hachanami. If you're measuring into a vessel of a Jew, sounds like the Jewish flask, his own bottle. Sounds like the Jews doing the Jews measuring into his own flask. So then you're right. Then there's no reason to take the money first. You can, if he pours into his own flask, so then you're right. However, lo tzricha, we need this ruling of Rav, the kakayel v'rami lemana obikochavim. We need the special ruling of Rav that you take the money first in the case that you're pouring your barrel of wine into the non-Jew's bottle of wine. Why? Why? Because in that case, once you've poured it into a bottle of the non-Jew, we're assuming now that there is some other wine there. And since there's some other idolatrous wine in his bottle, in his cup, in his flask, so once you pour your wine into his bottle, right then and there, it becomes Yain Nesach already. So right then and there, it's Yain Nesach. So if you don't take the money first before you do this, and you do this first, and then take the money, you are exchanging money for Yain Nesach. Right, so then there's no problem. Then you don't have to take the money first.
He pulls it towards himself and does Mashiach. Does he now take ownership and become Yain Nesach?
So we're going to argue on Rav Ashi. We're going to say, meaning Rav Ashi was trying to prove that Mashiach is not a good form of acquisition, because if it was a good form of acquisition, as soon as he pulled it, he acquired it, and therefore there's no reason to take the money first, because as soon as he acquired it, it's permitted wine. Give the money. You're giving money for permitted wine. Where's the Yain Nesach? He hasn't touched it at all.
If he pulls it, we're saying if he pulls it, permitted wine?
Yeah, because he hasn't touched the wine. He's touching the bottle.
So you're saying the Mashiach is not...
Mashiach acquires it for him, yes or no, 2 opinions, but it doesn't render it Yain Nesach.
Doesn't render it Yain Nesach.
He has to mix it, he has to touch it, he has to have it in a flask with droplets. So let's get that. So Rav Ashi is proving that Mashiach is not good. Why? Because if it was good, then as soon as he pulled it, he acquired it, and then he's giving money for permitted wine. So to that, the Gemara is responding, no.
That's only if you're born the Jews born into that.
Also, so now on that, the Gemara is saying that no. The reason why Rav required the money to be given first is not because of your Mashiach problem. You can't prove it from there. It's another problem. Meaning you can't prove from Rav anything about Mashiach pulling. There's another problem, is that Rav only said his statement in the event that you're measuring the barrel into their bottle. Their bottle has droplets of prohibited wine. So right then and there, it's Yain Nesach. So any further transaction of money is money for Yain Nesach. Therefore, you can't prove from Rav if Mashiach is acquires, not acquires. Rav said his statement in one case, into a non-Jew, into the idol worshiper's flask, which sounds like it has some droplets, and therefore it's going to be Yain Nesach. Okay. So okay, fine. So that's says the Gemara, hold on. So kimata la'avira demana kanya. He says, hold on. Is that really true? We just made an assumption that when you pour it into the barrel, then you pour it to the bottle from the barrel, he hasn't acquired it yet. It's now idolatrous wine. Now, when he does any kind of acquisition, exchange of money, any acquisition, it'll be doing a illegal transaction. It's not a prohibited transaction. Says the Gemara, hold on, but maybe as soon as it enters into the airspace of the bottle, kimatala avira demana kanya, at that moment that it enters into the airspace of the bottle, it is his. And Yain Nesach lo have ademate le arise. It doesn't become Yain Nesach until it hits the floor of the mana, the floor of the barrel. And therefore what? And the floor of the bottle. Yeah, the bottle. So therefore, at that moment that it enters into the airspace, he's already acquired it. And if he's already acquired it, so then there's it's permitted wine that you're doing. He's acquired permitted wine, so there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with at the time that he acquires it, it was permitted wine. So you never sold him wine that was prohibited, because at the moment that it enters the bottle, it now belongs to him. Oh, that's permitted. When it hits the floor of the bottle, then it's going to be prohibited. So once again, why did Rav require that the money be given first? I think that's what he's asking. Why did Rav require the money to be given first? At the point that he acquired it, it was permitted. So now when you're giving the money afterwards, what are you paying for? You're not paying for idolatrous wine. You're paying for the wine that you acquired the second it entered into the airspace of the bottle. That's what you're paying for. That was permitted. So why did Rav require that you have to give the money first? Even if you give the money afterwards, you're paying for permitted wine. It became yain nesach after you acquired it. So says the Gemara, hold on. If this is true, Shema Mina Nitzok Chibur. Then that would mean, if this is true, that Nitzok Chibur, that the what is that?
Right, yeah.
That the pouring is considered a chibur, considered a connection, and that itself was a debate. That was a debate earlier, and therefore, like, are you taking stands in that question? So that's a question that we had. So there's no proof from here. Then they would have brought that as a proof when they had this question. So okay. So the Gemara says, "Lo. Rather, idin nakile obekochavim lekli biyadei hachanami lo tzrich." Says the Gemara, listen, this idea of Rab, that give the money first, you do not need it for a case where the idol worshiper is holding on to his vessel in his hands. If he's holding on to his vessel, so then you don't need Rab to tell you to give the money first. Why? Because as soon as it goes into his vessel, he's acquired it, and he hasn't touched it yet. So, therefore, as soon as it goes into his vessel, and it sounds like he's holding his vessel, right? He's holding his own bottle, not the barrel. Yeah. So at that point, it's his, and therefore there's no transaction of idolatrous wine. It's right there. It's his. You need Rav's case in the following: the manecha'ara, really where the vessel is on the ground. So the buyer, the idolatrous buyer's vessel is on the ground. The Jew's pouring the wine from the barrel into his bottle, which is on the ground. He's not holding the bottle; it's on the ground. In that case, what's going to happen? The tikni le kela. His vessel is going to acquire the wine. It's going to acquire the wine, and now it sounds like what that the wine that's poured into the vessel is now idolatrous wine, and basically
It goes all the way back to the barrel.
What is that?
It goes all the way back to the barrel, doesn't it?
What goes back to the barrel?
The yain nesach.
When it says that it means his own bottle, right? Once again, if the idolater is holding his own vessel. One second. What's the difference? In one case, he's holding his own vessel, and in one case, meaning, yeah. We're trying to argue that really Mashicha would be a good acquisition. So we're saying, of course, if he's holding the vessel, right, and then when the wine is poured in to the vessel, so he acquires it through pulling it. At that moment,
You would acquire the wine we're talking about before it came to the wine. Guy holding it in his hand.
That's interesting. He's holding the vessel, and we consider it a hagbah when someone else is pouring it into his vessel. Interesting. By holding up the vessel, that's going to be already a hagbah.
And it was only saying that the instruction take the money before the wine, just
So really, right. Meaning really, but I don't understand. If the vessel itself contains yain nesach wine,
that's what I'm confused here. So what's the
right? If the vessel itself is containing droplets of yain nesach, so 1 second.
But it's like it's in the Jews' domain.
Yeah, that's coming up now. So the first case says Idin Nakalei coming to Biyade Hachanami Lo Tzricha. We don't need Rab's teaching, meaning you don't have to give the money first. because he acquires the wine with Hagbah, it sounds like the wine is permitted. The question is, why is it permitted? Why is it permitted? But that we rejected already. Shmamina needs a chiber? Low. That we said is that's already taking sides in a big debate that we're not going to get involved in. We said no.
Finally, the buyer does not and the wine becomes prohibited when it reaches the bottom of the
wine
and mixes with the rest of wine.
Oh,
The residual is yet
right.
In the part of the pour, right?
The stream, the pouring is not considered a connection.
Right.
We're not getting involved in it. If it's not a connection, then the second it hits the bottom, it becomes yain nasa.
Right.
And therefore, Rav says, so therefore we say, of course, Rav said, get the money first before this happens, because if this happens first, then you're in big trouble. So rather, that's obvious. That's obvious. The case that's not obvious is demana ha'ara, if the vessel's on the ground. So then we're saying, in that case, the tikni le kelev, let the vessel acquire the wine. Now, if the vessel would acquire the wine, so who cares if he's holding it or not? Who cares if he's holding it or not? Oh, okay, yeah, like this, right, like this. Says the Gemara, no. We need Rav's case for something else. Okay, when the vessel's on the ground, so you're right. The pouring and the stream is not a connection. There's another thing. We know that a person's courtyard can also acquire things for them, right? Called a kinyan chatzer. A courtyard can acquire for you. So same thing here. Maybe when it enters the vessel's airspace, let it acquire it as if you're putting it to the guy's front yard. The same idea, right? Same way your front yard can acquire for you. Once it enters the airspace, not because of a stream as a connection. Forget that. Just let it acquire for you that it's in the airspace. And therefore, if it's in the airspace, you've acquired it. It hits the floor, it's prohibited. So
you've acquired the floor.
Right. So why did Rav require across the board take the money first? We have another option. Let the vessel acquire for you like a kinyan chatzer, as if it's your courtyard acquiring for you. Says the Gemara, if that would be true, shmas mina, then you would learn from here, kelev shalokeach, that the vessel of the buyer in the domain of the mocher, right? Interesting thing. Usually your courtyard is in your domain. It's your courtyard. Here you have a buyer's vessel in a seller's domain, right? So that's two opinions. Does that work or does that not work? The vessel is yours, the domain is his. How do you view that? You go after the vessel, you go after the domain. So shmas mina, kelev shalokeach, birshus mocher. So that would mean that the kelev, the vessels of a lokeach, in the possession of the seller, lo kana lokeach. So the fact that Rav didn't say this, right? The fact that Rav required you to give the money, you can learn from here that he held that the vessels of the buyer in the domain of the seller do not acquire for you. Because if it would acquire for you, then the second it hit the airspace of the vessel, it would be acquired. That's permitted wine. Only when it hits the floor would it be not permitted wine. The fact that Rav didn't say all this shows you that he held that kelev shalokeach versus lo kana lokeach. That's up for debate. So says the Gemara, no. Don't deduce that from here. La'olam emalach kana lokeach. Really, Rav would hold no. Your vessel in the seller's domain, right? Imagine you're going to you go shopping. You go with your own basket. In Israel, everyone the granny carts. The granny. You bring your own granny cart. So that's ready. That's in this case. You're putting the other person's things in your granny cart, right? So of course that does work. That would be a good acquisition. If that's good acquisition, so why did Rav across the board require you to take money first? Kigon the ikvas akvas yayin apume diku zanta the kama insachle. Very nitty gritty. There's a lip on the top of the bottle of the idol worshiper it has some droplets. Imagine the coffee mug right here,
Mhm.
right? He's using this
That's all
coffee mug and he's pouring through without taking the lid off. That's okay. So the top of the coffee mug over here, or the bottle of wine, has a little bit of a lip over there that has droplets of yayin nesach. So the second it hits the vessel, you're right, the vessel acquires it, but right away it becomes yayin nesach also. That's acquiring yayin nesach. So says the Gemara, okay, but hold on. Ukiman, that's below Rav Shimon Gamliel. That's not like the opinion coming up in Sunday, Monday of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. There's going to be a debate. What do you do when you have a mixture? You have some yayin nesach and some regular wine. Is that totally prohibited? Is it permitted? So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is the lenient opinion. So obviously we're going not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel because we're prohibiting it right away. Even a few droplets mixed together with a whole bunch of wine is going to be prohibited. That's not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, if it would be like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, you can sell the whole thing to a non-Jew, to an idol worshiper, except for chutz midimei yayin nesach. Meaning, even Rabbi Shimon Gamliel would agree, you could sell the whole bottle, not like the rabbis hold. However, you have to just deduct the few cents that the yayin nesach is worth. So if the whole bottle is worth $100, you calculate that there's there's an ounce over there of yayin nesach, it would be $100 minus an ounce, so $98. You'd have to that, but you could sell it to him. That's fine. So this is obviously not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So says the Gemara, okay, what are you asking? That Rav is not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? Okay, it's funny. We ended off the same thing yesterday. Same thing, not much same thing. Rav and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. It's very funny. So I'm not saying we're ending. I'm just saying that Ella the Rav, said Midihu time Ella the Rav. What are you asking? A question on Rav? Rav himself said, halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. The halacha is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. So you can't ask Rav is against Rabbi Shimon Gamliel if Rav agrees with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So halacha Rabbi Shimon Gamliel chabez b'chabez. Aval lo yayin b'yayin. Rav held that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but only if it's a chabez. If it sounds like a barrel of wine, it's mixed with many barrels of wine. They're all poured together. So then you can go like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. But a little bit of wine and a little bit of wine, even Rav agrees that the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So it's a little bit different than yesterday. It doesn't bother us that he's not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel because he himself held that the halacha is only like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel when you have many barrels that are mixed together. But wine mixed together with other wine, a little bit of wine, that he is going to hold as prohibited. But therefore, it's okay if it's not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. It's pretty good. Yeah. Okay. I guess should we stop here? I guess I guess we'll start here. Okay.